So with political gatherings allowed under level 1 of the lockdown, the ANC is in a race to conclude branch general meetings to elect new regional leaders in time for the October municipal elections. According to the party's constitution, regions must meet the 70% threshold to go to conference. The Northern Cape is among the provinces gearing up for its regional and provincial conferences that have been repeatedly delayed by the COVID-19 pandemic. So let's unpack the state of readiness of that province. We're joined now by Provincial Chairperson Dr. Zamani Saul this morning. Dr. Saul, it's great to have you with us here on the show. Thanks for joining us so early on this Wednesday morning. I want to begin with the headline story insofar as the governing party is concerned this Wednesday morning, and I'm sure you won't be surprised that it's centered around the step-aside resolution, which in many ways has been centered around the Secretary-General, Ace Magashule. I suppose the question is, how do people in the lower ranks who are also affected by this step-aside resolution, how do they abide by the instructions from the mother body when the SG refuses to do so?
No, good morning, Michelle, and morning to the viewers, and thank you very much for having me here. You see, that basically puts the organization in a predicament.
Yeah.
Because with my experience here in the Northern Cape, ordinary members, councillors have stepped aside as soon as the NEC took the decision. So it really puts the organization in a very precarious position. And if the National Executive Committee fails to implement the step-aside resolution, for which it has adopted the guidelines, I'm telling you that will be self-dissolution by the National Executive Committee.
So
it won't be in any position.
Yeah. So, I mean,
any other decision that it will take in the future.
Right. And how do you, as provincial chair, deal with such a big issue in the run-up to an election?
No, we here in the province we don't have problems. We have councillors who stepped aside. We have councillors who actually stepped down when they were found guilty. So we don't have a problem with the implementation of the resolution. But if the senior leadership of the ANC does not heed the call to step aside, that simply means nobody else will step aside. Why would an ordinary member of the ANC step aside if senior leaders don't step aside and the rules don't apply to them? So if the NEC fails in this, it's self-dissolution. We are dissolving ourselves. We'll never be able to implement any other decision of the NEC.
It's a difficult position to be in as we count down to a local government election in just a few months' time. I mean, how do you prioritize the focus from what's unfolding in terms of the toing and froing insofar as the step-aside resolution is concerned, and actually preparing for elections?
Focusing on stepping aside is the right focus for them. That is the precise focus for now, right focus for the African National Congress, because our traditional support base have been complaining about the levels of corruption within the ranks of the ANC. And stepping aside is a direct response to that concern. So this is the right focus, because we are in an era of organizational renewal. We need to enhance the integrity of the organization. So stepping aside is a critical part thereof. If you look at our performance with the 2016 local government elections, our post-elections elections research, our traditional support base, people who have been voting for the ANC all the years, said we decided to keep away our votes because you guys are self-serving, you are corrupt. So stepping aside is the right focus, and I'm telling you, it excites our traditional support base. They are very happy about it, that the organization is embarking on a process of cleaning itself. They are extremely excited about it. So that's the right focus.
Are you worried? You just talked to us about the 2016 election results, where you could really see your traditional support base pulling away from the governing party. Are you even more worried going into October?
No, I'm not worried this time around, because the movement is in a process of repositioning itself. The real ANC is coming to the fore, and our support base is extremely excited. Just within this period, in the Northern Cape, we had about 26 by-elections. We've won 25 of them. So our support base is coming back in droves, in large numbers, and extremely excited about the fact that we are cleaning ourselves. violating our fiduciary right and fiduciary duties towards the public, it's one of the greatest offenses that the ANC should try not to commit. So that's the reason why our supporters decided to pull back, because we are looked upon as a corrupt organization. The Zondo Commission excites them as well, because Zondo Commission is also one of our critical arsenals in ensuring that we clean governance and ensure that as the movement we move forward and with integrity.
So talk to us about your regional and provincial conferences. I mean, they've been, and understandably so, they've been repeatedly delayed because of the COVID-19 pandemic. What do the next few months look like for your province?
Just this weekend, we are having 2 regional conferences, and next weekend we'll be having 3 regional conferences. So we are going to have 5 regional conferences before the provincial conference that will take place on the 28th of May. That is about 2-3 weeks from now. But it's all systems go. BGMs are done under very difficult circumstances of COVID. And with all the BGMs that we've conducted, there is not even a single incident where a BGM became a super spreader. So I want to thank the branch executive committees of the Northern Cape, together with the members of the ANC in the Northern Cape, with the manner in which they've behaved themselves. I think this time around, we had a completely different attitude towards convening of BGMs, and there will be a completely different attitude towards the provincial and regional conferences. I know you all know our BGMs are normally bedeviled by violence, disruptions, and all of that. This time around, it was quiet. Nobody spoke about it, because there is a great deal of discipline within the structures of the movement. There is a great deal of unity within our work in the province, and I'm very much excited and deeply grateful with the manner in which our members and as well as branch executive committees have behaved themselves. But this week we start with 2 regional conferences, and next week it's 3, and then thereafter we'll be going to the provincial conference. Verification report, we received it from the Office of the Secretary General. Our branches have passed the verification, and which simply means that we are ready. It's all systems go.
So that's at the party level. That's readiness at the party level. In terms of campaigning, which we know obviously can't take place in the normal way in terms of the restrictions around the pandemic, how are you going to manage that part of gearing up your province?
Check, these conferences are a foundational base for us moving forward for local government elections. And I think our attitude is to use these conferences for 2 purposes. Number one is to use the conferences to consolidate unity within our ranks as the African National Congress in the Northern Cape, and also to use them as a platform to launch our local government elections. I'm certain you know that in the Northern Cape we have 31 municipalities. Yeah? ANC is in charge of all 31 municipalities. And our minimum objective is to ensure that by the time we emerge out of the by-elections, the ANC is in charge of all 31 municipalities. We don't want to lose any of the municipalities that we have in the province.
Dr. Saul, final comments from you, because at the start of our interview, you were quite confident that this difficult process in terms of the step-aside resolution is a good thing, that it's a good sign of renewal within the party. Your message from the Northern Cape as the mother body continues to and fro with its resolution, particularly with the SG?
Our view in the Northern Cape is very simple. We support the renewal agenda. We support it fully. And we firmly believe that it's through the courage of leadership that we are going to create optimal conditions for renewal. Conditions for renewal won't create themselves. Leadership must create optimal conditions for renewal. We firmly believe that with the current leadership of the National Executive Committee, there is courage to create optimal conditions for renewal. And what we also believe in is the fact that comrades must first and foremost take the personal responsibilities to ensure that we protect the image of the African National Congress. We joined the movement voluntarily, and part and parcel of our responsibility as members of the organization is to ensure that we don't soil the pristine revolutionary image of our organization. So first and foremost, it's a call on members to do it themselves without being forced to do that. But if there are those members who feel that they are not going to do it, they are not going to take it to heart, the fact that we need to protect the image of this organization, then the National Executive Committee should suspend them. The Constitution makes provision for that. Rule 25, sub-rule 70 makes provision for summary suspension of members. So the National Executive Committee will have to do that. Will have to summarily suspend those members who refuses to step aside in protection of the image of the movement. But I think the other very important issue around step aside is the fact that step aside is not about guilt or innocence. Step aside is a precautionary measure by the organization to protect its own image, so that when members are charged for corruption or any other serious offenses, they should not become face of the organization. If we are a serious organization about fighting corruption, how do we then allow a situation where somebody who's charged of corruption remains the face of the organization? It's just unfair towards the self-interest of the ANC. So the self-interest of the ANC, its image, the brand, must be protected at all costs if we want to gain traction with the ordinary people and for them to continue to vote for us into public office.
Dr. Zamani Saul is Provincial Chair in the Northern Cape. Thanks very much for your time this morning on the AM report. We're talking all things elections as we gear up to the local government polls in October. And of course, the big headline as well, once again, is the step-aside resolution. The National Working Committee now resolving that those letters must be sent out to those who are implicated.